Interesting situation with Mike McDaniel, Pro Football Talks. Mike Florio, you hear him every Friday morning around 9:20 with the Joe Rose Show. He is locked into everything that's going on in the NFL, and he is what we call a truth teller. He doesn't sugarcoat things. He doesn't play around. He tells you how he feels and what he thinks and what he knows, and you can take it or leave it, but he's not playing around. He talked about our coach earlier this week, Mr. Mike McDaniel.
And at number one, as much as I like him, I feel like Mike McDaniel in Miami, this is up or out year for him. If he doesn't do enough, and I don't know what the standard's going to be to get Stephen Ross to keep him, and I don't know if Stephen Ross is even thinking about making a change. He said after the 2024 season, both Chris Grier, the GM, and Mike McDaniel coming back, and all the right things, right? Because you don't want your guys to think they're on the hot seat. You don't want to be dragged down by stress. You want to be able to put their best foot forward. But if the Dolphins aren't competitive this year, if they finish third or fourth in the AFC East and miss the playoffs, it could be the end of the road. I don't know what Stephen Ross is going to do, but it could be the end of the road. We keep hearing about culture change. Why are we changing the culture? Because the existing culture isn't working. Because, look, they overreacted when they fired Brian Flores. They moved on from the Belichick-style hard ass, and they went all the way to the other end of the spectrum with a player-friendly coach who doesn't hold his guys accountable. And now, all of a sudden, he's going to hold guys accountable. I don't know that it's going to work. And I don't know that Tua is the guy. And I think some of those guys who have been linked with leaving, they may have come to the conclusion Tua is not the guy. A lot of pressure this year for a lot of people in Miami. And if the wheels come off early, could be interim coach with a full-blown search beginning then and culminating in a new coach being hired after the season ends.
Okay, Vlad, I know you probably agree with everything Mike Florio was saying there.
Of course, I love Florio.
I don't disagree with anything he's saying, but there's some things I agree with him a little more than others. I do agree with him that Mike McDaniel is on the hot seat. And if this team finishes third or fourth in the division and does not make the playoffs,
he's on the foreman.
Changes will be made. I don't know if I totally believe him in Tua not being the guy. I do believe Tua is the guy, and I'll explain that later, but I'm going to let you get to your point. And I don't know so much about Mike McDaniel not being able to lead the locker room because I've heard conflicting reports. Now, Vlad, tell me why you agree with Mike Florio so much.
One, Florio's got unbelievable access.
He does have that,
to the league. And what Florio's telling you is probably what his source, who's probably the actual person, I'm not saying that could be Stephen Ross or somebody. He's telling him exactly what he's thinking and how the team is thinking, and he's just relaying it to the public. 4 years, my guy. We live in a league right now. You literally have 2 years to show some type of improvement. Excuse me.
Yes, we've seen guys win Coach of the Year and then get fired.
Right. So you have 2 years to really show anything. So for the fact that you've had you're going into your fourth season and there's not been a playoff win. Yes, you've gotten to the playoffs. Yes, the offense was one of the most exciting offenses, yes. One of the most prolific offenses in the last 5 years. Yes, that was beautiful. But when you're taking those steps, you also got to show results. And the results have been wild card loss, not even make the playoffs.
Correct.
And you're entering your fourth season with a roster that is not, to the public, as prominent as the other rosters you've had over the last 3 seasons.
Hence why you have to do the culture change, because that's the only way you can really promise any change when you don't have really much more players. You have to promise health and culture.
And
what about to the point, Vlad, though, and Mike McDaniel not a leader of men?
I don't believe it, bro. Sometimes, let me tell you this. Sometimes your coach can be an old guy, right? That you could if you put hands on him, you break him apart. But there is a level of respect, maybe a fear, but there's just something of an authority where you're like, all right, I might not get along with this, but I'm going to respect him. He's the guy. Riley has that. We've heard that. Riley he's going to stand 10-toe down on whatever he believes in. And players may not like it. Players have challenged him to fight, and he's been willing to get in to throw down. Guess what? That's respect. After we heard the Shaq and Riley story, but guess what? Shaq respects Riley even more now.
Yeah.
He was willing to throw hands with me. UB Brown, we talk about that story with UB Brown. Gary Payton was talking trash. UB Brown was, at his old age, was ready to throw hands with Gary Payton. Guess what? They might laugh at UB, but I guarantee you every player on his team has a respect for him. I don't think those 53 players all respect Mike McDaniel.
I see Mike McDaniel's style, the buddy, friend, it's all of a sudden, and pardon the pun,
but you're not trying to be friends.
Pardon the analogy, you're letting the inmates kind of run the prison. There's not enough authority. There's not enough discipline. That can go very, very wrong. The reason I don't know totally that he has lost this team or totally that he's not a leader of men is because we've had reporters numerous times here in South Florida who follow the team. They go to every practice. They go to all the places that this team, even last year when problems arose, he never lost the locker room. The players kept playing for him. This year, they're saying he will not let them get away from what they need to do this year.
93 was there last year.
93 was their last year.
No, Calais was there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Calais was there. Okay. I was there in those locker rooms. Everybody ran to Calais to talk. And he stood there and he answered all the questions and he kept the positive mindset. He always kept a positive mindset. He never let them, he never allowed the Dolphins to let go of the rope. He's not there this year.
Right.
Teron Armstead, another locker room leader, never allowed them to let go of the rope. He's no longer there this season. But that is the reason why.
You have to imagine it as, and it's once again, not the greatest analogy. It is a leveled thing. It is like a pyramid scheme. You have Mike McDaniel at the top. He has to get the leaders, the captains of the team to buy into what he's saying. And then they have to go down to the players and have them buy in. So if Mike McDaniel can get the leaders who, once again, we question, could be two of this year.
Optically, let me ask you this.
I get you.
Let me ask you this.
Optics count.
Optics, right? That's been the theme of today's show, right? Optically, when I tell you Chris Grier, Mike McDaniel, and Tua Tagovailoa as your leaders, are you really afraid of that?
Optically, if you told me the leaders of this team are Tyreek Hill, Tua Tagovailoa,
not even Tyreek. Forget
Tyreek Hill said he was a captain.
Captain Cap. If I'm telling you right now, from what you've gathered and that you've seen,
I understand.
If Chris Grier is your general manager, for the last 20 years, people have been wondering why Chris Grier got a job. If Tua is your quarterback and people have been questioning Tua's health, injury, his status as a quarterback, where does he fit? And then your Mike McDaniel's your leader, and he has players that don't respect him. I'm not looking at this organization. I'm like, oh man, this is the organization. I'm not looking at the organization as a culture.
I get you though, but where there's smoke, there is fire. If people are saying that he's lost the locker room or that he's not a leader of men, that might not be 100% true, but them talking about it means there's at least some aspect of it.
The fact that you're talking about after one bad season, you're talking about you need to change the culture when we didn't even think you had a culture. It's crazy. That means you've never had a culture.
The fact that year in, year out, people ask, why does Chris Grier still have a job? That's not a good sign either, because that means there's reason to believe why does this guy have a job? If there's year in, year out, people asking, is Tua that guy? Once again, that's not good, because that means you have not enough
6 years
to prove in everything.
Not after 6 seasons. And not after 4 years with this new regime,
We will find out this year, though, if Mike McDaniel is a leader of men and he's leading this team, or if he's not.
And by the way, it doesn't take you 4 years to lead men.
I understand. He is quote unquote a rookie coach when we say that, meaning this is his first head coaching job.
Yeah, but
he's growing on the job.
4 years. There's coaches that don't even get after 1 year to get their ass kicked.
I'm saying
poor Jerry Mayo.
We've been saying this for years. After the first year, he's going to learn from what happened in that Bills game when he didn't have the right personnel ready for that fourth down and it cost us. He's going to learn in the second year to challenge that catch by the Green Bay Packers on Christmas Day. He's going to learn this. He's going to learn this. And the learning curve hasn't been as accelerated as we'd like it to be. Now, let's get to the other part. Tua, not that guy. I do believe Tua, that guy, is that guy. This is what I think happened with Tua Tagovailoa, and I've actually been thinking about this, and not around the water cooler, Vlad. No. Just as I've been walking around, because that's what I do. I have to take walks, and I think Tua is not a victim, but for lack of a better term, a victim of expectations. Is he a good quarterback? Is he one of the best quarterbacks in the league? I think so. The only problem is the whole tank for Tua. He's the chosen one. He's going to lead you to the promised land. The expectation now, you look at the Tua that is an actual Tua, and then you look at the expectation that a lot of people had for the Tua. And that is where I think the disconnect comes forward with Tua not being, quote unquote, the man.
No. Everybody has expectations when they show out, when they perform at a level, in high levels, for teams, for brands, for established brands. You go to Alabama, you go to everybody.
You're the number one recruit.
You're number one recruit.
You won a national championship and a half.
The way you came in and won that national championship, guess what, Playboy? You a superstar now.
You had big numbers at Alabama too.
You're a superstar. And you're different. You're unique. You know? Well, all we saw was Marcus Mariota, but you were in the pocket thrower. Yeah. Guess what? And then you went back to the second year, and then you went to the national title game.
Yeah.
And then your third year, you were leading to a national title game until you met Joe
Burrow got
Joe
you.
Burrow and LSU, and one of the greatest teams in college football history. But you had a great game coming back from an injury.
Oh, you had a huge game. He had almost 500 passing yards.
Right. And he was playing hurt.
No, he was playing a lot more hurt after the end of the game than he was during the game. He seemed all right during the game, but yeah.
Don't worry.
Dragging his leg off the field.
Hey, Dad, don't worry. LSU won that game.
I know. I got you.
We don't. I'm not taking anything away from that Bayou Bengals team.
I didn't like it.
But I'm just saying.
Well,
all the expectations were with him because another thing, he was considered to be the number one quarterback.
Yes, until he got hurt.
And Joe had that.
And Joe Burrow had an unbelievable year. Yeah.
If Joe doesn't have that unbelievable year, Tua was still the number one quarterback selected.
Right, because it was. Well, no, it was
Herbert, Tua.
No. I'm talking about that draft. You had number one was Burrow. Number two was Chase Young.
Oh, you're talking about yeah.
In that draft,
yeah.
I don't even remember who went 3 and 4.
I mean, I could look at it.
It's okay. And then Tua went 5th right before Justin Herbert.
Tua's 5th or 4th? Yeah, I think Tua's 5th. Yeah.
So, Vlad, you've said it for a long time, over a year now, that this is the season.
Been saying that for because when I'm looking at the season, I'm like, in fairness, if there was a season they could really, crap the bed, it would have been this year because the contracts don't kick in until, it would have been 24 because the contracts don't kick in 25.
So, as a Dolphins fan, are you relieved that this is we say this every year, the season of answers where Mike McDaniel, you don't win, you're fired. Chris Grier, you don't win, you're fired. Tua Tagovailoa, you don't win. There's going to be major changes. Tyreek Hill, you don't win. There's going to be major change. Now it could be just a cleansing, or could it be another year where we say that's going to happen and it ends up being just?
I'll answer that very quickly. I did find out who the 3rd and 4th pick of that 2020 draft was. Jeff Okudah, cornerback from Ohio State, Detroit Lions.
Okay, and
the Giants drafted Andrew Thomas, offensive lineman from Georgia. Is Okudah still in the league? I don't even know.
Well, like I said, this year we say it again. Now we're sounding like Tyreek Hill and these guys about every year this year changing the culture and being tough and changing the narrative. We're going to say this is the year of answers, right? Right? We'll see.
Like, I could understand if this was a reset because of you had 4 years, maybe you made the playoff 3 of those 4 years, had some type of success, maybe got close to a conference championship, and then now you just got to reload because some of the guys that were there for that run might have gotten older. That they decided they wanted to go to greener pastures. I can understand that, but this nucleus 0-2 in the playoffs.
Yep, last year not much to write about. This year, hopefully the year of answers.
And instead of going,
hopefully good answers.
Instead of going higher in wins, because you went first season was what 9-8.
Yes.
Second season was 11-6.
That was the big year.
And then third year was 8-9. Yeah, bro, that's not good. You went up to go down.
Well, maybe the last year was an aberration. It was just a bump in the road.
Nah, he's on the floor, man, Playboy.
Oh no, I believe that
He's
100%.
absolutely on the floor, but and remember, he's not that big, so it was just put him on the sink.
Remember
And
this.
he thought out. He
This is
thought
the
out
year of the
easy.
this is the year of the answers for the Dolphins fans. We hope.
Yeah, the answer.
Once again, Mike Florio kept going. You never know what Stephen Ross is going to do, though, and you really don't.
Because in a lot of times, you probably thought he should have let people go, and he kept them. He kept them, and you can't knock somebody for being loyal. You want.
Well, he's also had some nightmare scenarios with coaches and general managers and the whole hiring situation. We pointed that out too. So maybe he's a little shell shocked from that.
It's such a balance, bro, because you want somebody to be loyal. You respect an owner, a boss, a CEO who's loyal to his employees.
Gives you time.
Like gives you time. Yeah, you might have messed up, but you've shown that you cared. You love that.
Same time, you got to win some games and playoff games. In 25
Playboy,
years. 25 years.
I need ROI, baby. I need a return on investment.
That's true.
I need a return on an investment, and I invested in you, and I've got no returns back.
We'll see if there's any dividends and yields this coming season for the Dolphins.